So last night was the State of the Union, of course. President Obama, he came out strong, came out swinging, touting some of his accomplishments that he was able to do, and reaffirmed some of the promises that he had made throughout his presidency. Such as doing something on the environment, raising the minimum wage, things like that, getting us out of different wars. Now, overall, I thought it was a pretty good speech. I mean, Obama's really good at making speeches. It's one of his things that he's really good at. It was strong. It poked some fun at Republicans, and that's always fun. And it was filled with, of course, a lot of good, very flowery rhetoric. For an example, I really liked it when he had used the phrase, "Give America a raise." Well, who wouldn't want to give America a raise? Who'd vote against that? Everybody loves that idea, right? It's very, very, very popular. And, of course, refers to the minimum wage. It's very, very popular. 73% of Americans agree, raise the wage. 53% of Republicans, I love it. Give America a raise. You can't argue against that. Now, that's, of course, in response to 1010. Now, remember, I have to note that 1010, it may be an improvement, but remember that if wages kept up with productivity, minimum wage would be somewhere around $20 an hour. And then you've got the protesters asking for 15, Obama pushing for 10. I just thought I'd throw that stat out just to kind of put it in context. And to put it in context, if minimum wage was $15 an hour, like what they are asking for, that's only about $25,000 a year. Now, depending on if you're raising a family or whatnot, on just that income, you could still be in poverty, even making $15 an hour. But it's much more closer to a living wage than what is currently being proposed by the president. Nonetheless, it's good to see him, really kind of champion the spirit of raising the wage, to get on to other things that I have actually liked on the State of the Union speech. He actually mentioned solar energy. Oh, solar energy, alternative energy. I love that. He said, quote, "We're becoming a global leader in solar. Every 4 minutes, another American home or business goes solar. Every panel pounded into place by a worker whose job can't be outsourced. Let's continue that progress with a smarter tax policy that stops giving $4 billion a year to fossil fuel industries that don't need it, so that we can invest more in fuels of the future that do." Be still my heart. I love it when he talks that way. Take away the oil subsidies. Yes, he knows how to get a progressive going, except, of course, when you remember that he hasn't actually been able to do anything and has actually approved the southern half of the Keystone XL pipeline. Then it's more like, well, you get kind of bummed out. So while I did enjoy his speech, the State of the Union, I can't really say that there was anything all that new or impressive about it, or amazing. Now, he still argued for reducing corporate taxes, which I think is ridiculous. Corporate taxes are the lowest they've been, especially when you look at effective rates, not just the stated rate, but the effective rate, what they actually pay. And, of course, there was language in there, hidden in there, about fast-tracking the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would be about 9 different kinds of disaster if it went through. Very, very terrible thing. And so that was sort of hidden in his little trade, the part of that speech where he talks about increasing trade and jobs and all that stuff. So now the president did leave out a couple of things when he was boasting about, he left out some things, and he also boasted about some things that he really shouldn't have. Now, some of these things are things that progressives such as myself aren't exactly proud of to hear. For example, he boasted that, we reduced our total carbon pollution by more than any other nation on Earth. While technically correct, the United States still produces a ton of carbon emissions. Now, looking at a percentage change, dozens of countries actually did better. But we did reduce a lot, and I suppose that's a good thing. But we're still number 2 in carbon emissions, right behind China. Yeah. And that's not even because of his policies. That's because of the natural gas boom, we're not burning as much coal as we used to. Instead, we're burning natural gas, which, yeah, it's cleaner than coal, but it's not really a huge improvement. That also brings me to the solar comment that I liked. Now, there's also a downside to that, too, because domestic oil drilling has actually never been higher. And the southern leg of the Keystone Pipeline, like I mentioned before, that's shipping oil out of America, and that has already been approved. So, no, we're still massively investing into oil instead of alternative energy. And so I'm a little bummed about that. And that, of course, leads me naturally to climate change. Now, climate change was mentioned once in his speech. Well, that's nice. He said, quote, "We have to act with more urgency because the changing climate is already harming Western communities struggling with drought and coastal cities dealing with floods." I guess we're lucky he even mentioned it. But, like I said, he hasn't really done a whole lot on that front. We'll see how committed he is to climate change when he makes a decision on the rest of the Keystone XL pipeline. But I'm not really going to hold my breath. Now you can tell that I am a bit skeptical, I guess, when I hear these speeches. And, of course, I'm not the only one. I think a lot of progressives know the feeling. I mean, a lot of us are getting pretty disillusioned by the policies of the president, not matching the fiery rhetoric of his speeches. And don't get me wrong, he knows how to work a crowd. President Obama is a hell of a speaker, but when it comes to policy-wise, he gets you fired up and then he lets you down. Now, of course, you can blame a big chunk of that on Congress, and they pretty much blocked everything that he's proposed, even their own ideas. So I'm not really talking much about that, as much as I'm saying that a lot of President Obama's policy ideas aren't exactly the bold progressive policy priorities that really we should be focusing on.